Hello and welcome to today's motorhome chat live broadcast, whatever. And so, as always, if you've got any questions related to van life, motorhomes, and whatever, please use the chance now to put them into the chat box. Or if you just want to say something, then write down whatever you have to say. I'm sorry the quality is not so good, as my telephone is this is my telephone, which gives excellent quality, I think, on the video, but I haven't got the gimbal. I left the gimbal in my bicycle, so I haven't got it with me, and which is a big pity because yesterday I had to replace the screen and the battery. The reason for this was because I dropped it. It was in the gimbal. I was at a place called Kalushki and I was trying to do a history film. And what happened was I tried to adjust the phone and it fell out of the gimbal and it fell onto the floor and broke. And that was a rather expensive thing to happen because it was getting on for, well, it's about 300 and... more than 300 euros anyway for replacement. So that was it's a Samsung S10 Plus. Thing is, why should I spend that much money on a replacement for the phone? Because the thing is, when I bought the phone, I bought it fully loaded with everything: a ceramic back, which is meant to protect it, and it's got 1 terabyte of memory, and as well as 12 gig of RAM. So I mean, the RAM, maybe I don't need it that often, but the 1 terabyte of memory is really handy at those times when I am at a trade fair or something like that, and so I don't have to keep running back as I had to earlier and taking everything off my putting everything onto my hard disk. So that's great. It's easily I can do 2 or 3 days filming. Well, maybe not 2 days anyway, and I don't have to worry about things. Okay, so now you know why the image isn't very good, and you also know my adventure of this week with the screen getting cracked. Now, the subject of today's video is something that occurred to me in a dream only 3 days ago. And obviously, the fact that I was thinking about doing this must have been, and then this came up as a result. And the question is, what about, I'm going to buy a van, I mean, one's going to buy a van. I'm going to buy a van, and what type of van should I get? And let's suppose I'm going to buy a new one. Now, I always say, don't buy new. And in fact, there was some character wrote on a commentary saying that telling people not to buy new is not appreciated. Well, okay, then if you want to just listen to the people selling the advertisements, then maybe listen to what they have to say. My advice is to actually I'm on the side of the consumer in this case. I do not represent this industry in any way. They don't pay for me. So so obviously I represent the consumer. So anyway, I always tell people not to buy new. And not to buy new. I mean, I skip down to rent. Then you buy old, then newer and newer, and then maybe after a few times you can buy new. Obviously, if you buy new, then you can get all sorts of things you might want. You might want it to be in a particular color. There are some companies which offer incredible choice. I mean, Niesmann Bischoff, if I remember rightly, I did a calculation. They can offer more than 1,000 possibilities, I think, if I've understood them correctly. So that's supposing that, I mean, that's a sort of the color of the cushions times the color of the walls times the outside color, etc. So that'd be like 10 times 10 times 10. So, and that quickly gets you into 1,000. So, and hello to Annie. And so that's one of the things about buying new. Obviously, you got to wait a long time. Whereas if it's a used vehicle, then you'll just pick it up immediately. But now, one advantage that new has got over old is that you can you can possibly get credit on it. Now, I'm not suggesting you can't get credit on a used vehicle. There are some dealerships which do things like this, and but you've got a far better chance of getting credit on a new vehicle, and that credit could be spread over a very long time. Now, for example, so what is the difference between a van, let's say, for argument's sake, or a camper van, and it's a relatively cheap camper van, it costs 50,000 euros, you can say in dollars, because it doesn't matter, 50,000 X, doesn't matter what the currency is, or 100,000 as, for example, a rather nice looking Nota a van which I published last week, which came to 99,500, and it maybe because it was the night after I published this, and this thing came through my mind, is the difference between, so the cheap you can buy a Pössl van or a Globe car or something like that, and or you can get the Nota van. Well, so what is the difference between the two? Well, the difference between the two is, let's say you could get a credit of 12.5 years. Now that is possible. It's not, I'm not speaking out of a nonsensical situation. And but if you could get, for example, a credit of 12.5 years, and let's say the difference now between the two is 50,000, that cost of between the cheap van and the sort of the really elegant one is now, well, 150,000 shared by 155 is what, about 333. Of course, you've got interest on top of that, plus interest on the interest on the interest, and all the rest of it. But all the same, you're paying that with the interest and in the accumulated interest and all the rest of it, plus the extra cost of the insurance, because obviously that's going to cost you more money, but you're probably looking at around 400 euros a month difference. Now, not obviously 400 euros is a lot of money to put in your back pocket, but if you're buying something like this van, then maybe it won't be. There's also a second thing which occurred to me. I don't know if this is entirely fair to state, but I'll state it anyway. And that is that the value or the depreciation on certain vans is much less than on others. Now, if you took, for argument's sake, and I'm just picking these companies off the top of my head, but if you took the depreciation on a Hymer and compared, for example, to a depreciation on a Knaus, which was a similar vehicle, then the Hymer holds up its value much better. And therefore, spending that, argument's sake, 80,000, just pick that sum up, 80,000 the Hymer and 80,000 on the Knaus, will you better off getting the Hymer because the value will hold up better, possibly. Bear in mind, of course, that value is determined by market forces. Market forces could be all sorts of things, which means that sometimes things are cheap and sometimes things are expensive. And just using motorhomes and RVs as an example at the moment, the reason why things are expensive now is because of the COVID situation. And when everybody's forgotten about COVID and everybody's living in hotels again, and then maybe they won't want to go out in vans. What I suspect is now going to happen is that, okay, there's a big demand on vans now. I've even seen friends of mine with my own family. I mean, my sister rented a motorhome. I mean, she just said she doesn't know how I managed to do it. But I mean, I knew nothing about it. The next thing I see that I'm told she's going up in a motorhome, and I thought it was a joke when the thought was put to me. I know a friend of mine also went up to Africa and rented a van for Namibia, and that was last week. And so I see people who probably never thought of doing these things before are now doing it because they can't get in the hotels and they're frightened of what could happen. So therefore, we have the situation that these things are, motorhomes are very much in demand at the moment, and that of course has an effect on the on the resale prices of sales price. I mean, it's very difficult, it's hard to judge what like to like, but it's easily looking, I've said 15% in the past, and I even think it's now closer to 20% in over this time 2 years ago, which you can't compare it to last year because that was in COVID as well. So 2 years ago in end of May. So that's how it appears to me anyway. So other people may have other opinions, but it certainly is, it's more expensive. Another thing, actually, I got another comment on one of the videos saying that there's plenty of vans available new. Well, I challenged the person to actually tell me what vans are available new, of which there are plenty, and I didn't get a response. So that I think that is the answer. It stands to reason that most of these are relatively small. I mean, companies such as Ford, and if they're making cars, or Mercedes, or Nissan, or whoever, they make cars on spec, on speculation. So, but they know they'll sell them. And so that's the way it happened. Now, motorhomes now, of course, are being made on spec, but well, sort of on spec, because there's such a backlog that'll see them through. But I think once they actually get through that backlog, if they ever get through that backlog, they would return to making things speculatively, on the hope that they would sell them. And another thing which actually happens as a result of this is that if you see a van on a forecourt or something like that, now normally there is a margin which is roughly 18%, roughly, depends on the van and all the rest of it. So therefore, if the motorhome is being sold, argument's sake, €60,000, so that with value-added tax, or the equivalent sales tax, then the cost, the dealership will be paying around 50,000 for it. So you could say, I think it's fair enough to say, well, you could maybe negotiate off maybe 8 to 10%, because obviously the dealership's going to have to do some work on it anyway. But there's no way that dealerships will do that now, and quite understandingly. I mean, why should they, when their problem is getting stock in? So they must have something to show potential clients, and if somebody wants to take that one, it's on their forecourt, then certainly they should have to pay a premium for it. That is the way the capitalist system works. And I'm a big believer in capitalism, having seen the opposite in action, and I don't like the opposite very much, as from an economic point of view. So anyway, great. So that was largely what I wanted to say today. So about the difference, and that it may be worth your while, if you do buy new, considering, well, I only have to pay that much extra. Now, I'm not suggesting, I don't want to start encouraging people to spend above what they can afford. Certainly that would be extremely irresponsible of me. But on the other hand, that's something I think you could actually consider. Now, what I don't know is where you can get credit like this. For example, I mean, I know from Hymer, for example, I noticed that they are doing these 150, 12 and a half year, I should say. So it's 150 weeks, months, 12 and a half year credit for a vehicle. So that is one. And I think they were charging, off the top of my head, I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was 2.5 or 3 points over base. So if your base is, for example, the base rate of interest is 1%, and they're charging 3% over base, that's 4%. So the 3% is the margin for the bank. And now, question here is, will the cost of delivery on a used van from overseas be the same, or one has to the okay, or should you get a used bought? So is the cost of delivery, will it be no, the cost of delivery will probably be the same. I'm not aware of transport companies, for example, shipping companies charging more, unless it's involved in the United Kingdom, because there are all sorts of problems at the moment. So shipping the United Kingdom, or from the United Kingdom, has increased considerably. But in the case of, for example, if you're buying something, for example, if you order something in Germany and you live in Italy, then that, I don't think there's any difference in shipping costs. But if it's the United States, I don't think there's been any great demand. Although having said that, I don't know what's happened to costs of things like that. And somebody here says that I have an interesting variety of videos. Thank you. I have a dedicated history site. So if you want history, you need to go to my site called History on YouTube. And this is now my motorhome site. It wasn't my motorhome site when I started it. It's sort of changed direction several times, but it's always had a travel element to it. and indeed my first ever video was when I was just sort of playing around trying with the camera. So, oh look, this camera can take movie films as well, and so then I'll just do a quick film. And then the one the first ever video I put up was just to see how it worked, but I left it up. Okay, so thanks very much for everybody who watched, and so as always, 1700 my time, or Central European time. There is a there's a video, and if you want the history video, sorry, it's history is me live. Sorry, 1700 on a Saturday at my time at 1600 in the UK. There's me live, and on if you want the history videos, there is a video that comes out every Friday at 8 o'clock my time to Central European time, 7 o'clock in the 1900 in the UK. And there are occasionally videos, or something, or quite often there are videos also on History Channel coming up during the week as well. And as far as motorhome videos are concerned, it's at 21:15 Central European time. There is a video every single evening, and occasionally as well as this one on a Saturday, and sometimes I put one on a Sunday afternoon as well. Depends how I'm feeling. So, okay, thanks very much for those of you who were here, and so I hope that was interesting. And that's a theme I think I can come back to at a different day, and I'm sure I'll have more opinions on this one as far as credit is concerned. Incidentally, I used to my job. I used to work in credit funding real estate, so I don't really know much about consumer credit. I'm sure that some people here will know more about consumer credit than I do. But what I do know a little bit about is how to to fund real estate projects and things like that. If you want to build a shopping centre or a housing project, something like that, I know how to do that. Okay, Chris asks, what would you recommend second-hand two-berth van which is value for money? Okay, right, Chris, look, the best van you can get is the one which is available. At the current time, it's not a case of looking for things and being very picky about what you want. You have to make a choice between what's most important for you. Is it to have a motorhome, or is it to find the motorhome you really want? And although I'm saying, look, buy used vehicles, the problem is the used vehicle also has to be available. And whereas I do say, okay, that vehicle, used vehicles are available now, that of course does depend on the vehicle. You've got to find the vehicle for it to be available now, which is a rather somewhat a logical statement even. It depends. I mean, it depends on what your budget is. It depends on what your the size of the van is. If you want to write that down, that can give you a better answer. If I were going to buy a new van, because what I want a widthwise bed at the back. That's important for me, and I want a motorhome over a camper van. Although I could be soon driving a camper van again, but that's what I want. And so for me, I mean, the brands I would look for, I'd go for a small Hymer probably, because that's probably my favorite brand. Although there are others. I mean, now I would look for something with a double floor, Carthago, well, anything within, just about anything within the Hymer group, for example, Carthago, or EuraMobil, something along those lines. For me, so they're things which I think will also they'll hold up their value as well, rather than there are other brands which will hold the value much less. One of the things that people often ask me about is quality. I can't say. I can't refer to quality because I don't know. Quality comes out. It's not what it looks like when it's in a showroom. It's what it looks like after it's been on the road for 20 years. That's what quality is. And the thing with I mean, tests which are done on vehicles, I've seen the test that the Hymer group uses, for example, when they sort of drive them down at speed they've got these cobbled roads with bumps in and all sorts of things. And once I got in, they didn't just told me to make sure my seatbelt was on, and then they did these swerving tests and all, and they do that to make sure that nothing fall, the cupboards don't all sort of fly open on the floor and all the rest of it. So I mean, I saw the way, for example, Affinity did the same sort of thing with their camper vans. The test, the emergency stops, this type of thing. So anyway, so value for money is something that's been through that, rather than maybe just come off a line and then hoping for the best. I don't think I've given an answer to the question, but no, I have given an answer to the question that the value, the van you must get is the one which is available. I can't say you've got to buy an EuraMobil 270 from 2016, for example. I can't say that because I don't know if that vehicle will be available. Okay, thanks very much to everybody who has been here today, and all the best from Łódź in Poland. And now I'm going to turn off. I can work. Oh, if I can work out. Oh, there it says end stream. So okay. Sorry, different question. Thanks. Have you got a different question, Chris? Because if you do, say it, because I'm going to end the stream. If not, Hymer sounds good. Thanks, Wojtek. Oh. We know each other, don't we? Or is it just a coincidence that you've got the same name as somebody I know? Okay, see you later. Video this evening is a very curious Globe. What's the name of the company? Globe car. No, yeah, Globe car with it's a camper van, but it's got a really unusual toilet and washroom for a camper van on a Fiat Ducato. That's tonight's film. Thanks. Okay. Bye.